The mining colony of Zerion 4 was burning. Smoke rose from a dozen buildings as laser fire streaked across the night sky. In the colony's command center, Administrator Kelvin 9 watched his screens with growing despair. "The Bloodclaw Federation ships have landed in sectors 7 through 12, reported his aide. "Our peacekeepers are falling back on all fronts." Kelvin 9's metal fingers drummed against the console. The Andromedan android had run this mining colony for 15 years. He had never seen anything like this. "How long until the council fleet arrives?" he asked. 4 days minimum," his aide replied. "The pirates will have stripped the colony bare by then." Kelvin 9 looked at the tactical display. Red symbols marked enemy positions. They were everywhere. The Bloodclaw Federation was the most feared pirate organization in this sector. Their ships were fast, their weapons were powerful, and they showed no mercy. "Sir," his communication officer called out, "we have an incoming message. It's from the human security team. Put them through." The screen flickered and the face of Jae-hyun appeared. He was sitting in what looked like a small ship, checking his weapons with calm efficiency. "Administrator Kelvin 9, Jae-hyun said in his steady voice. "We're 5 minutes out from your position." "What's the situation?" "The situation is hopeless," Kelvin 9 replied. "The Bloodclaw Federation has deployed 3 battle cruisers and over 200 ground troops. Our peacekeepers are outnumbered 5 to 1. "Understood," Jae-hyun said. "We'll handle it." "Handle it?" Kelvin 9's optical sensors focused on the human. "There are 6 of you and 200 of them." "That seems about right," Jae-hyun said. The connection ended. 5 minutes later, a small ship landed at the colony's spaceport. 6 humans stepped out. They moved with purpose, checking their equipment and speaking in low voices. Nara was the team's medic. She carried medical supplies and weapons with equal ease. Taehoon specialized in explosives. His bags clinked softly as he walked. So-young was their sniper. Her rifle was almost as tall as she was. Woo-sung handled electronics and communications. His gear hummed with quiet power. Ji-yeon carried the heavy weapons. Her launcher could punch holes through starship armor. And leading them all was Jae-hyun. 20 years in Earth's Special Forces had taught him that impossible just meant you hadn't figured out the right approach yet. "Nara, set up a casualty station in the main shelter," he ordered. "Woo-sung, I need full tactical data on enemy positions. So-young, find high ground with clear sightlines. Taehoon, Ji-yeon, we're going hunting." The Bloodclaw Federation had taken the colony's main industrial complex. It was a fortress of metal and concrete, surrounded by defensive walls and guard towers. Inside, Captain Scarix was counting his loot. "The mining equipment alone is worth 50 million credits," he told his lieutenant. "The refined metals will bring twice that. This is our biggest score yet." His lieutenant, a scarred warrior named Vex, nodded agreement. "The peacekeepers have stopped attacking. They're hiding in the civilian areas." "Cowards," Scarix spat. "Send patrols to root them out. Kill anyone who resists." That's when the lights went out. Emergency power kicked in a few seconds later, but something was wrong. Half the guard towers were dark. The main gate was standing open, and there were screams coming from the outer perimeter. "What's happening out there?" Scarix demanded. "I don't know, sir," Vex replied. He was speaking into his communicator, but getting only static. "I can't reach the outer guards." More screams echoed through the darkness. Then the screaming stopped. The silence was somehow worse. So-young was lying flat on a rooftop 300 meters away. Through her rifle scope, she could see pirates running around the compound like ants whose nest had been kicked. She adjusted for wind and distance, then squeezed the trigger. A guard in the northeast tower fell without a sound. On the ground, Taehoon was placing his charges with artistic precision. He had learned his craft in the mountains of Earth, where one mistake meant being buried under tons of rock. Here the stakes were the same, but the rocks were made of concrete and steel. The first explosion took out the main power generator. The second collapsed a section of the defensive wall. The third opened a new door in the side of the main building. Ji-yeon used that door. Her heavy weapons were designed for breaking through hardened targets. The pirates had good armor, but it wasn't good enough. Inside the compound, Jae-hyun moved like a shadow. He had learned urban warfare in cities where every corner could hide an enemy. The pirates were tough fighters, but they were used to overwhelming their opponents with superior numbers. They didn't know how to deal with someone who turned their own size against them. "Contact! Contact!" Vex shouted into his radio. "We have hostiles in the compound." "How many?" Scarix demanded. "I don't know. They're everywhere." But that wasn't true. The humans weren't everywhere. They were exactly where they needed to be when they needed to be there. So-young's rifle spoke again. Another guard tower went silent. Tae-hoon's explosives brought down a section of the warehouse, blocking the main exit. Woo-sung had hacked their communication system. Every time the pirates tried to coordinate, their orders were scrambled or redirected. Ji-yeon's weapons cleared the courtyard of enemy fighters, and Jae-hyun cut through their command structure, like a knife through soft metal. It took 37 minutes. When the smoke cleared, Captain Scarix found himself alone in his command center. His army of 200 pirates was gone. Some were dead, some were wounded. Most had simply run away when they realized they were fighting something they had never encountered before. The door to the command center opened. Jae-hyun walked in, his weapons ready. "You're under arrest," the human said calmly. Scarix reached for his sidearm. Jae-hyun moved faster than the pirate's eyes could follow. Suddenly, Scarix was on the floor and his weapon was in Jae-hyun's hand. "I said you're under arrest," Jae-hyun repeated. Back at the colony's command center, Administrator Kelvin 9 stared at his displays in disbelief. The red symbols marking enemy positions were gone. All of them. In less than an hour, 6 humans had done what his peacekeeping force couldn't accomplish with superior numbers and defensive positions. "How?" was all he could manage to say. Nara's voice came over the radio. "We have 17 enemy wounded requiring medical attention. I'm treating them now." "You're treating the pirates?" Kelvin 9 asked. "They're wounded," Nara said simply. "That's what medics do." Woo-sung had restored full communications and power to the colony. So-young was providing overwatch to make sure no enemies returned. Tae-hoon and Ji-yeon were securing the captured equipment and weapons, and Jae-hyun was walking Captain Scarix to a holding cell. Because that's what soldiers did when the fighting was over. "I don't understand," Administrator Kelvin 9 said when the humans returned to his command center. "The Bloodclaw Federation has terrorized this sector for decades. How did you defeat them so easily?" Jae-hyun considered the question. "I wouldn't call it easy. But we've had practice." "Practice?" "Earth is a dangerous place," Nara explained. "We've been fighting each other for thousands of years. We got good at it. But we also learned when to stop fighting," So-young added. "The goal isn't to hurt people. It's to protect people, even the pirates?" Kelvin 9 asked. "Even the pirates," Jae-hyun confirmed. "They made bad choices. That doesn't mean they have to die for them." Kelvin 9's optical sensors whirred as he processed this information. These humans had just demonstrated military capabilities beyond anything in his database. They could have killed every pirate in the compound. Instead, they had shown restraint. "Your species," he said slowly, "is not what we expected." "What did you expect?" Tae-hoon asked. "Monsters," Kelvin 9 admitted. "The report said you come from a world so harsh that only the most savage creatures could survive. We thought you would be like the Bloodclaw Federation, but worse." Woo-sung shook his head. "Savage creatures don't build spaceships. They don't explore the galaxy. They don't help strangers. But you're so effective at violence," Kelvin 9 pointed out. "We had to be," Ji-yeon said. "Our world taught us that if we weren't prepared to fight, innocent people would get hurt. So we learned to fight," Jae-hyun concluded. "But we also learned that the point of being strong is to protect people who can't protect themselves." Kelvin 9 looked out at the colony. Families were emerging from their shelters. Children were running through the streets laughing as they played. The miners were already talking about getting back to work, all because 6 humans had decided to help. "I need to make a report to the council," Kelvin 9 said. "They need to know what happened here." "Tell them the truth," Jae-hyun said. "We're not monsters. We're just people who learned how to fight for what matters." As the humans prepared to leave, the colony's citizens gathered to thank them, but the humans seemed uncomfortable with the praise. "We just did our job," Nara said. "Anyone would have done the same thing," So-young added. But Administrator Kelvin 9 knew that wasn't true. In 15 years of managing this colony, he had seen dozens of species respond to crisis. None of them had responded like this. The humans weren't just effective fighters. They were something the galaxy had never seen before. Warriors who fought not for conquest or glory, but for the simple belief that people should be safe. As their ship disappeared into the stars, Kelvin 9 began composing his report. The massive space station floated in the void like a crystal flower. Its walls were made of materials that could survive the heat of stars. Inside, creatures from 100 different worlds worked together. This was Galactic Council Station Epsilon 7, the most secure place in known space. Captain Junho stepped off his ship and looked around. The air felt strange on his skin. It was too clean, too perfect. Back home on Earth, the air had weight to it. Here, everything seemed fake. "Welcome to our station," said a voice like music. Junho turned to see Ambassador Mirai walking toward him. She was tall and thin, with skin that looked like it was made of pearl. Her people, the Veltari, were known across the galaxy for being peaceful and wise. "Thank you," Junho said. He reached out his hand to shake hers, the way humans always did when they met someone new. Mirai looked at his hand like it was a weapon. She took a step back. I am not sure if physical contact is safe," Junho laughed. "It's just a handshake. We do it to show we're friendly." "But your species is from a class 13 Deathworld," Mirai said. Her voice was shaking. "The reports say your planet is so dangerous that no intelligent life could possibly survive there." "Earth dangerous?" Junho scratched his head. "I mean, sure, we get some bad weather sometimes, and there are a few animals you have to watch out for, but it's not that bad." Other aliens in the area stopped what they were doing. They all turned to stare at the human. Junho felt like he was in a zoo, but he was the animal in the cage. A security officer came over. His name was Vextor, and he was from a warrior race called the Korthak. He was 8 feet tall and had muscles that could crush steel. But when he looked at Junho, his eyes were full of fear. "Human," Vextor said, "we need to ask you some questions, for the safety of everyone on this station." "Sure," Junho said. "Ask away." "Your planet," Vextor began. "Our scientists say it has gravity that would crush most beings. How do you survive?" Junho shrugged. "You get used to it. Kids learn to walk in it, so it feels normal to us." The aliens looked at each other. Ambassador Mirai made a note on her datapad with shaking fingers. "And the atmosphere," Vextor continued. "Your air is 21% oxygen. That gas is so reactive it can burn through metal. How do your lungs not dissolve?" "Oxygen." Junho looked confused. "We need oxygen to live. Without it, we die in a few minutes." Ambassador Mirai made a choking sound and sat down hard in her chair. Her pearl-like skin turned a pale blue color. "Are you okay?" Junho asked. He started to move toward her. Every alien in the room jumped back. Security officers reached for their weapons. "Stay where you are," Vextor shouted. "Do not approach the ambassador." Junho stopped and held up his hands. "I was just trying to help." "She looks sick." "Sick?" Mirai whispered. "You breathe poison gas and live in crushing gravity, and you are worried about me feeling sick?" A new voice spoke from behind them. "Captain, is there a problem here?" Junho turned to see Dongyun walking up the ramp from their ship. He was older than Junho, with gray in his hair and scars on his hands. He had been a soldier on Earth for 20 years before joining the space program. The moment Dongyun entered the room, every alien moved away. Some of them started breathing faster. Others reached for panic buttons on the walls. "No problem," Junho said. "Just answering some questions about home." Dongyun nodded. He moved like water, smooth and careful. But the aliens could see the power in his muscles, the way his eyes watched everything at once. "Sergeant Dongyun," Junho said to the aliens, "fought in the border wars on Earth. He's one of our best." "Wars?" Vextor asked. His voice cracked like a teenager's. "Your species fights wars on a death world?" "Well, yeah," Dongyun said. "Humans don't always agree on things. Sometimes we have to fight it out." Ambassador Mirai stood up on shaking legs. "You mean to tell me that while surviving on a planet that should kill you every day, your species still has energy left over to fight each other?" "Life's not that hard on Earth," Junho said. "Sure, we get hurricanes that can knock down buildings, and earthquakes that split the ground open, and we have to watch out for wild animals that could kill us. But that's just normal stuff. You learn to deal with it." "Normal?" Mirai's voice was getting higher. "Hurricanes are normal?" "My grandmother lived through 12 of them," Dongyun said. "She used to say they were good for cleaning the gutters." An alien near the wall made a gurgling sound and fell over. Medical teams rushed to help him. "Perhaps," Vextor said carefully, "we should continue this conversation in a more secure location." They moved to a conference room deep inside the station. The walls were thick enough to stop laser blasts. Security cameras watched from every corner. "Tell us about your military," Vextor said. "We don't have just one military," Junho explained. "Each nation has its own army, navy, and air force. Then we have special forces, Marines, Coast Guards, and reserve units. How many nations? Asked a small furry alien named Administrator Queelik. About 200, Donghyun said. Administrator Queelik fell off his chair. 200 separate military forces, Vextor repeated slowly. On one planet, a death world. It sounds worse than it is, Junho said. Most of the time, everyone gets along okay. Most of the time? Mirai asked. Well, there are always a few conflicts going on somewhere, Donghyun admitted. But nothing too serious, usually. The room went completely silent. The only sound was the hum of the air recyclers and Administrator Queelik trying to climb back into his chair. Finally, Ambassador Mirai spoke. I need to make a call to the High Council. This changes everything. Changes what? Yunyo asked, but the aliens were already leaving. They whispered to each other in their own languages as they hurried out of the room. Junho looked at Donghyun. Did I say something wrong? Donghyun shrugged. Maybe they've never met anyone from a tough neighborhood before. Outside the conference room, emergency lights began to flash. Ambassador Mirai was speaking rapidly into her communicator. Code 7 situation, she was saying. Possible Class A galactic threat. Requesting immediate High Council review. The two humans sat alone in the conference room, wondering what all the fuss was about. The jungle was alive with sounds. Birds called from hidden branches. Insects buzzed in the thick air. Water dripped from leaves high above. To High Aaron, it was just another Tuesday morning in the Amazon rainforest. To the alien scientists following her, it was a nightmare of epic proportions. Dr. Hieron, said Zicthes through his translation device. The insect-like alien was shaking so hard his 6 legs could barely hold him up. Perhaps we should return to the safety of your research station. We just got here, Hieron said cheerfully. She pushed aside a branch and kept walking deeper into the forest. You wanted to study Earth's ecosystem, right? This is where the good stuff is. Behind Zicthes, melodic frequency 439 was making sounds like a broken violin. The crystalline being's body was flashing colors that meant extreme distress in her language. The atmospheric moisture is at dangerous levels. Melodic frequency 439 sang in her crystal voice. My structural integrity could be compromised. It's just humid, Hieron said. She stopped next to a large tree and pointed up. See that bird up there? That's a harpy eagle. Beautiful, isn't it? The two aliens looked up. The massive bird stared down at them with eyes like golden coins. Its talons were longer than knives. Zicthes made a sound like air escaping from a punctured balloon. That creature could tear us apart in seconds. Nah, Hieron said. Harpy eagles mostly eat sloths and monkeys. You're too big for them to bother with. Too big? Melodic frequency 439's crystals rang like breaking glass. That predator is larger than most of the apex hunters on my homeworld. Hieron shrugged and kept walking. She stepped over logs that were bigger around than most aliens were tall. She ducked under vines that hung like ropes from the canopy above. Dr. Hieron, Zicthes called out. Wait, there appears to be a dangerous situation ahead. Hieron stopped and looked where he was pointing. A large snake was stretched across the path. It was as thick as her waist and longer than a car. Oh, that's just an anaconda, she said. Probably sleeping off a big meal. She walked right up to the snake and gently pushed it aside with her foot. The anaconda opened one eye, looked at her, and went back to sleep. Both aliens fell over backwards. You just touched a mega predator with your bare foot, Zicthes whispered. Anacondas aren't predators to us, Hieron explained. They eat fish and birds and small mammals. A human is way too big for them to swallow. But it could still crush you, melodic frequency 439 pointed out. Sure, if it wanted to, Hieron said. But why would it? We're not food to each other. It's like professional courtesy. They continued through the forest. Every few minutes, the aliens spotted something new that terrified them. A poisoned dart frog that could kill a horse with its skin. Army ants that could strip meat from bones. Plants with thorns that dripped acid. How do you live with all these dangers? Zicthes asked. You learn what to avoid, Hieron said. Don't touch the pretty frogs. Don't mess with ant colonies. Don't grab random plants. It's really not that hard. They reached a river. The water was brown and moved fast. Logs floated by like lazy boats. Those aren't logs, Melodic Frequency 439 observed. Her crystals were glowing pale pink with fear. Nope, Hyarin agreed. Those are caimans. They're like crocodiles, but smaller. Smaller? Zigthes looked at the 10-foot-long reptiles floating in the water. Those are smaller? Well, yeah. Real crocodiles can get twice that big. Both aliens sat down hard on the muddy bank. I need to call for medical assistance, Melodic Frequency 439 sang weakly. I believe I am experiencing system shock. Hyarin's radio crackled to life. Dr. Hyarin, this is base camp. How are your visitors doing? They're a little overwhelmed, Hyarin replied. Maybe we should head back. No, Zigthes said, struggling to his feet. We came here to understand how your species survived. We must continue. 3 hours later, they were back at the research station. The aliens had survived encounters with a jaguar, which Hyarin said was just curious, a fer-de-lance snake, only dangerous if you step on it, and a cloud of vampire bats, and they prefer cattle. Seungmin was waiting for them in the equipment shed. He was working on a machine that looked like it had been built from spare parts and good intentions. Hey, Hyarin, he said, not looking up from his work. How was the nature walk? Educational, she replied. Seungmin, can you show our guests some of your equipment? Sure thing. Seungmin stood up and wiped his hands on a rag. This is my water purification system. Takes river water and makes it safe to drink. He pressed a button. The machine roared to life with sounds like a small explosion. Both aliens dove for cover behind a workbench. Is it supposed to make that noise? Zigthes called out. That's just the combustion chamber, Seungmin explained. I use controlled explosions to heat the water and power the filters. Explosions? Melodic Frequency 439 peeked over the workbench. For water purification? Well, yeah. How else would you do it? Seungmin showed them more of his equipment. A chainsaw for cutting fallen trees, powered by tiny explosions in the engine. A generator for electricity, bigger explosions in a bigger engine. A radio system runs off the generator with the explosions. Everything you build uses explosions, Zigthes observed. Not everything, Seungmin said. Some stuff uses springs under tension, or chemicals that react with each other, or electricity at dangerous voltages. Those are all weapons, Melodic Frequency 439 pointed out. Not really. They're just tools that happen to be dangerous if you use them wrong. That evening, the aliens sat in the research station's common room. They watched Hyarin and Seungmin eat dinner and play cards like they hadn't spent the day surrounded by deadly creatures and explosive machinery. I have a question, Zigthes said finally. Your children, how do they survive long enough to become adults? Hyarin laughed. Kids are tougher than you think. They learn fast. And we watch out for them. But surely you must lose many to the dangers of your world. Some, Hyarin admitted, but not as many as you might think. We're pretty good at taking care of each other. Seungmin nodded. That's the thing about living on a tough planet. It teaches you to work together. The ones who help each other are the ones who make it. Outside the station, something howled in the darkness. Both aliens jumped. Just a howler monkey, Hyarin said. They're loud, but harmless. The howl was answered by another one, then another. Soon the whole forest was alive with calls. They're talking to each other, Seungmin explained. Families staying in touch, making sure everyone's okay. Melodic Frequency 439's crystals pulsed with a soft blue light. Even your animals take care of each other. Sure, Hyarin said. That's how you survive in a place like this. You stick together. Zigthes was quiet for a long time. Finally he spoke. We have been wrong about Deathworlders. We thought they would be savage, brutal, caring only for themselves. Why would we be like that? Seungmin asked. Because survival on such a world should require it. Hyarin shook her head. Survival requires the opposite. It requires helping each other, sharing resources, teaching the young, protecting the weak. The weak? Melodic Frequency 439 asked. Everyone's weak sometimes, Hieron said. Sick or hurt, or just having a bad day. When that happens to you, you need someone to help. So you help others when they need it. The aliens looked at each other. Their understanding of humans was changing completely. Outside, the forest continued its nightly symphony. And somewhere, in the darkness, creatures that could kill with a touch lived peacefully alongside each other, because they had learned the most important lesson of survival. Sometimes, the strongest thing you can do is be kind. The Council needed to understand what these Deathworlders really were, and what they might mean for the galaxy's future. News traveled fast in the galaxy, but understanding traveled much slower. 3 weeks after the Zerion 4 incident, Ambassador Sunho found himself sitting in his office on the diplomatic station, surrounded by crisis reports and emergency communications. His desk was covered with requests. 17 different colony worlds wanted human protection. 43 governments had filed formal complaints about unregulated military action. And the Galactic Council was demanding answers to questions that Sunho wasn't sure he understood himself, sir. His assistant Minjae said, entering the office with another stack of reports. The Veltari Empire has just declared a state of emergency. They're saying humans are a threat to galactic stability. Sunho rubbed his temples. What did we do now? Apparently, Dr. Yunji's research paper crashed their government servers. A research paper crashed government servers? Minjae nodded. It was about human psychology. Something about how Deathworld evolution creates protective behaviors instead of aggressive ones. The Veltari government tried to run simulations based on her data, and their computers couldn't process the concept. On the other side of the station, Dr. Yunji was in her own kind of trouble. The xenobiology conference room was packed with alien scientists all talking at once. You cannot be serious, Professor Klixvan was saying. His blue skin had turned purple with agitation. Your paper suggests that species from dangerous worlds develop stronger social bonds, not weaker ones. That's what the data shows, Yunji replied calmly. Humans who lived in harsh environments had to cooperate to survive. The selfish ones died out. Impossible, declared Dr. Synthesis of Logic, a silicon-based being from the academic cluster. Scarcity breeds competition. Competition breeds aggression. Aggression destroys social cooperation. Maybe for some species, Yunji said, but humans found that cooperation was more effective than competition. A group of humans working together could survive things that would kill individuals. The room erupted in arguments. Half the scientists were calling her research impossible. The other half were calling it dangerous. Professor Klixvan stood up. If your theory is correct, it invalidates 3,000 years of evolutionary psychology. I'm not trying to invalidate anything, Yunji said. I'm just reporting what I observed. But the implications, Dr. Synthesis of Logic protested. If Deathworlders evolve protective behaviors, what does that say about species that evolved in safe environments? The room went quiet. It was a question nobody wanted to answer. Meanwhile, on the planet Corinth, Dr. Kyung-soo was having his own problems. He had been invited to give a lecture about human culture to the planet's university students. It seemed like a simple request. He was wrong. Dr. Kyung-soo asked a student with tentacles instead of arms, "Can you explain this concept you call honor?" "Honor is about doing the right thing even when nobody is watching," Kyung-soo said. "It's about keeping your word even when it costs you something." The tentacled student looked confused. "But why would you do something that costs you something?" "Because your word is worth more than money or comfort," Kyung-soo explained. "If people can't trust you, what good are you?" Another student raised her hand. She had scales instead of skin and eyes like a lizard's. "What about this sacrifice idea? You say humans will give up their own lives for strangers?" "Sometimes, yes. But that makes no evolutionary sense," the scaled student protested. "How can a species survive if its members keep dying for non-relatives?" "Because when you save someone else's life, you're making the whole group stronger," Kyung-soo said. "And a stronger group protects everyone better." "Even the weak?" asked a third student, this one made of crystalline material. "Especially the weak," Kyung-soo confirmed. "The measure of a civilization isn't how it treats the strong. It's how it treats those who can't protect themselves." The students looked at each other in confusion. Their own cultures were based on the idea that the strong naturally ruled the weak. The concept of the strong protecting the weak was alien to them. But if the strong spend their time protecting the weak, the crystalline student asked, who protects the strong? Everyone, Kyung-soo said. That's how it works. Everyone protects everyone else. After his lecture, Kyung-soo was contacted by the planetary government. Apparently his talk had started riots. Students were questioning why their leaders lived in luxury, while ordinary citizens struggled. The government wanted him to leave immediately. Back on the diplomatic station, Ambassador Sunho was dealing with the fallout from all these incidents. His communication board was lighting up with urgent messages from across the galaxy. Ambassador called his aide Yuna from the communications center. The Hive Collective is on line 1, the Merchant Guild is on line 2, and something called the Purity Alliance is on line 3. What do they want? Sunho asked. The Hive wants to hire human soldiers. The merchants want to ban humans from their trade routes. The Purity Alliance wants to declare war on us. War? Sunho felt a cold weight in his stomach. Over what? They say humans are a corruption that will destroy galactic civilization. Sunho took the call from the Purity Alliance first. Their leader was a being called High Cleanser Vexthal. He looked like a cross between a jellyfish and a geometric equation. Ambassador Sunho, Vexthal said in a voice like breaking crystal, your species must be contained. Your ideas are spreading chaos through civilized space. What ideas? Sunho asked. This notion that the strong should serve the weak. This concept of sacrifice for non-genetic relatives. This belief in honor over profit. These ideas are destroying the natural order. The natural order? Strong species rule. Weak species serve. Resources flow to those best able to use them. This has been the foundation of galactic civilization for 10,000 years. Sunho was quiet for a moment. And you think that's right? It is efficient, Vexthal replied. Your human concepts are inefficient. They waste resources on the unworthy. They elevate the weak over the strong. They threaten the stability of established power structures. So you want to go to war to protect an unfair system? We want to go to war to protect civilization itself. The connection ended. Sunho stared at the blank screen, trying to understand how helping people could be seen as a threat to civilization. On the trade station Nexus 7, human merchant Captain Bogum was learning the same lesson. He had just completed a supply run to a frontier colony that had been hit by a plague. Instead of charging premium prices for medical supplies, he had sold them at cost. Are you insane? Asked Trader Kesselik, a spider-like alien who ran the station's largest shipping company. You could have made 10 times the profit. People were dying, Bogum said simply. So? People die every day. That's how markets work. Scarcity increases value. But if I charged more, some people couldn't afford treatment. They would die. Kesselik waved his 8 arms in frustration. That's their problem, not yours. You're a trader, not a charity. On Earth we have a saying, Bogum replied. What good is profit if you have to step on corpses to count it? The conversation spread through the merchant community. Some traders thought Bogum was a fool. Others started wondering why they had never questioned the system themselves. On the mining world Kef 9, human engineer Dayun was causing similar problems. The mine safety systems had failed, trapping dozens of alien workers underground. The mine's owners said a rescue would be too expensive. Dahyun organized a rescue anyway. You have no authority here. Mine supervisor Greltok told her as human volunteers poured into the facility. People are trapped, Dahyun said, not looking up from the equipment she was assembling. That's all the authority I need. The cost of this rescue will bankrupt the mining operation. Then it deserves to go bankrupt. The rescue took 18 hours. Every trapped worker was brought out alive. But the mine's owners filed a complaint with the Galactic Commerce Board, claiming humans had interfered with legitimate business operations. Similar incidents were happening across the galaxy. Humans helping flood victims on Corvash 3. Humans teaching agriculture to refugee camps on Tellus Prime. Humans providing medical care in war zones where even peacekeepers wouldn't go. Each act of kindness created ripples. Species that had accepted injustice for centuries started asking why. Worlds that had suffered under exploitative trade agreements began demanding better terms. Colonial populations started questioning why they served distant masters who gave nothing back. In his office, Ambassador Sunho looked at the reports piling up on his desk. Every time humans tried to help, they seemed to create more problems. Sir, Minjae said, bringing in the latest batch of communications. I think I understand what's happening. Explain it to me, Sunho said wearily. It's not that we're causing trouble, Minjae said. It's that we're showing people there's an alternative to the way things are. Alternative to what? To being okay with suffering. To accepting that the strong get everything and the weak get nothing. To believing that's just how the universe works. Sunho looked out his office window at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, entire civilizations were questioning their basic assumptions about how societies should work. All because humans kept acting like people mattered more than profit. Are we wrong? He asked. I do. The hegemony of pure thought had ruled the core worlds for over 2,000 years. Their capital city floated in space, a crystal structure the size of a moon. Inside its gleaming halls, the high minds gathered to discuss the human problem. The contamination spreads, announced Prime Intellect Zarthon, his mental voice echoing through the chamber. The hegemony were beings of pure psychic energy, existing in crystalline bodies that amplified their mental powers. 17 sectors have experienced ideological disruption. Established hierarchies are collapsing. The Deathworlders must be eliminated, declared Logic Stream Velcorin. Their concepts are incompatible with ordered civilization. Agreed, said Zarthon. Prepare the Mind Render. The Mind Render was the hegemony's ultimate weapon. It could destroy the neural patterns of entire species across vast distances, leaving their bodies alive, but their minds empty. They had used it 12 times in the past to eliminate races they considered intellectually inferior. Target the human homeworld, Zarthon commanded. When their planet is cleansed, their colonies will surrender. But as the hegemony prepared their weapon, Admiral Inhai was preparing her own response. The human fleet had been scattered across the galaxy on exploration missions. Now she was calling them home. How long until all ships reach Earth? She asked her tactical officer, Lieutenant Commander Jizoo. 6 days, Jizoo replied. But Admiral, our intelligence suggests the hegemony has weapons we've never seen before. Psychic technology that can attack minds directly. Let them come, Inhai said calmly. We've dealt with impossible odds before. The Mind Render fired 3 days later. The psychic beam crossed light years in seconds, carrying death on frequencies that could dissolve thoughts themselves. It struck Earth's atmosphere and spread across the planet's surface, and nothing happened. Impossible, Zarthon declared, his mental voice cracking with strain. Increase power to maximum. The second beam was 10 times stronger. It should have wiped out every thinking creature on the planet. Instead, it seemed to bounce off the human minds like water off stone. On Earth, people noticed a slight headache. Some felt briefly dizzy, then they went back to their daily lives. Report, Zarthon demanded. The humans appear to be naturally resistant to psychic attack, his technician replied. Their neural patterns are chaotic, unpredictable. Our targeting systems cannot achieve proper lock. How is that possible? We believe it's an adaptation to their hostile environment. Their minds evolved to handle constant stress and danger. Psychic attacks register as just another environmental hazard. Zarthon felt something he had never experienced before: fear. The Mind Render had never failed. It was the foundation of hegemony power. If we cannot destroy their minds, he said slowly, we will destroy their bodies. Launch the war fleet. Admiral Inhai watched the hegemony ships approach on her tactical display. There were hundreds of them, each one larger and more advanced than anything humanity had ever built. Orders, Admiral? Asked Captain Seokjin, commander of the assault ship Dauntless. They tried to commit genocide against our entire species, Innie said. Standard diplomatic protocols no longer apply. All ships, attack formation Delta. The human fleet moved like a school of fish, each ship knowing instinctively where the others would be. It was a formation they had practiced in Earth's oceans, where predators attacked from all directions at once. The hegemony expected a conventional space battle. Lines of ships trading fire across vast distances while their superior technology slowly wore down the primitive humans. Instead, the humans did something impossible. They charged. Captain Seokjin's ship led the assault, diving through formations that should have destroyed it. Behind him came the other human vessels, weaving between enemy fire like dancers in a deadly ballet. How are they moving like that? Demanded Hegemony Fleet Commander Yextel. Their ships should be destroyed by now. They're not following standard tactical doctrine, his aide reported. They're treating this like atmospheric combat, not space warfare. That makes no sense. Space combat requires careful positioning and long-range engagement. Tell that to them, the aide replied, watching another human ship perform an impossible maneuver that brought it inside a hegemony vessel's defensive grid. The humans had learned to fight in Earth's skies, where the ground was always ready to kill you if you made a mistake. In space, that translated to an aggressive style that confused enemies used to predictable patterns. On the engineering ship Innovation, Chief Engineer Yeji was working her own kind of magic. The hegemony's technology was advanced, but it was also rigid. Everything had to work exactly as designed. Human technology was different. It was built to be fixed, modified, and improved under impossible conditions. When Yeji got her hands on a captured hegemony weapon, she didn't study it. She made it better. This power coupling is designed to prevent overloading, she explained to her team. But if we bypass these safety systems and reroute power through the cooling system, that will destroy the weapon, her assistant pointed out. No, Yeji said with a grin. That will make it hit twice as hard. Within hours, she had reverse-engineered hegemony shield technology, improved their weapon systems, and figured out how to turn their own defensive networks against them. The battle lasted 18 hours. When it was over, the hegemony's mighty warfleet was scattered wreckage floating in space. Impossible, Zarthon whispered, staring at the tactical display. They were outnumbered 10-1. They fought like the planet itself was trying to kill them, Fleet Commander Yexatul reported from his escape pod. Every maneuver was designed to survive, not just to win. And their technology, added the fleet's chief engineer. It's like nothing we've seen. They make our own weapons work better than we designed them to. On Earth, the victory celebrations were subdued. The humans had won, but they took no joy in the destruction of life. They tried to wipe us out, Admiral Innie said in her report to the Global Defense Council. Every human man, woman, and child. They would have committed genocide without a second thought. But they failed, pointed out Secretary General Park. The question now is, what do we do next? We make sure it never happens again, Inhai replied. The galaxy has shown us that there are species out there who will try to destroy anyone who doesn't fit their idea of proper civilization. You're suggesting we become conquerors? I'm suggesting we become protectors. There are thousands of species out there who are suffering under systems like the hegemony. Someone needs to stand up for them. Across the galaxy, news of the hegemony's defeat sent shockwaves through every government. The most advanced civilization in known space had been destroyed by primitives from a backwater world. But the humans weren't acting like conquerors. Instead of demanding tribute or territory, they were offering aid to former hegemony subjects. Instead of enslaving the defeated, they were helping them rebuild. On the former hegemony world of Nexus Prime, Human Relief Coordinator Sungyun was distributing supplies to refugees. Why are you helping us? Asked a young hegemony survivor named Melkoth. We tried to destroy your entire species. Because you need help, Sungyun said simply. That's reason enough. But we are your enemies. You were following orders from leaders who made bad choices. That doesn't make you evil. Melkoth's crystalline body pulsed with confused emotions. I do not understand your species. That's okay, Sungyun said. Understanding can come later. Right now you need food and shelter. We can provide that. Similar scenes played out across dozens of worlds. Humans providing medical care to former enemies. Human engineers rebuilding destroyed infrastructure. Human teachers helping alien children learn new ways of thinking about the world. It was more devastating to the old order than any weapon could have been. In the ruins of the hegemony capital, Zarthon contemplated his defeat. The humans could have killed him and the other high minds. Instead, they had offered him a choice: adapt to the new reality, or be left behind by history. I still do not understand how you survived the mind render, he said to Captain Junho, who had come to discuss terms for the hegemony's surrender. Earth taught us that the universe is always trying to kill you, Junho replied. After dealing with hurricanes, earthquakes, predators, diseases, and each other for millions of years, psychic attacks are just one more thing to ignore. But you should have been terrified. Fear should have made you vulnerable. Fear did make us vulnerable, Junho admitted, but it also made us strong. When you're afraid, you have two choices: give up or fight harder. We chose to fight harder. Zarthon's mental voice was quiet. Your species will remake the galaxy. We hope so, Junho said. But not through conquest. Through example. Example? We'll show everyone that there's a better way to live. that the strong don't have to rule the weak, that different species can work together instead of fighting each other. That civilization should lift everyone up, not just the ones at the top. As Junho spoke, Zarthon realized something that chilled him to his core. The humans hadn't just defeated the hegemony militarily, they had defeated the very idea that the hegemony represented. The age of the strong ruling the weak was ending, and in its place, something unprecedented was being born, a galaxy where power served justice instead of the other way around.